First contact and resistance. The skies above Earth darkened on a perfectly ordinary Wednesday in April 2158. Massive ships, obsidian against the blue backdrop, appeared in low orbit with no warning. Humanity's early detection systems had failed completely. The vessels had somehow bypassed every sensor array and defense satellite without triggering a single alarm. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the command deck of the International Space Defense Station Alpha, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. Her normally steady hands gripped the edge of the console until her knuckles whitened. 32 alien vessels had positioned themselves above major population centers worldwide. Beijing, New York, London, Moscow, New Delhi, all now shadowed by these colossal intruders. Status report, Reyes demanded, her voice betraying none of the fear churning in her stomach. Lieutenant Jackson stepped forward, his face pale under the harsh lights of the command center. All vessels are maintaining position, Commander. No aggressive movements detected yet. They're just waiting. And our defenses. Kinetic defense platforms online at 97% capacity. Pulse cannons charge. Ground-based interceptors ready for launch. The quantum shield is operational but untested against whatever these are. The quantum shield had been humanity's most closely guarded secret, a defensive system that could theoretically create localized disruptions in space-time, making it impossible for conventional weapons to penetrate. Developed after the Ta-Siti disaster of 2149, when an asteroid nearly wiped out the East Asian Alliance, it had never been deployed against an actual threat. Open all communication channels, Reyes ordered. Let's see if they... The main screen flickered to life without prompting. A figure appeared, vaguely humanoid, but with sleek, silvery skin that seemed to flow like liquid mercury. Its eyes were geometric patterns of light that shifted continuously. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move. Instead, the entire face rippled with each word. People of Earth, the being said in flawless English, its voice oddly melodic. I am Supreme Admiral Vex of the Viridian Dominion. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender your governance, military capabilities, and resource extraction rights within 1 Earth hour, or we will begin systematic elimination of your population centers. Commander Reyes stepped forward. This is Commander Elena Reyes of Earth's Unified Defense Command. We request time to consult with our Planetary Leadership Council. The alien's face remained expressionless. 1 hour. No extensions. The screen went dark. Reyes immediately opened a secure channel to the Emergency Planetary Council, representatives from Earth's 7 major political blocs, who convened only during existential threats. They have us outgunned and outmaneuvered, the North American representative said, his voice grim. But notice their positioning, Reyes countered. They've stationed themselves directly above our cities, within range of our ground-based defenses. If their technology were truly overwhelming, they'd maintain orbit beyond our reach. You suggest we fight. The African Union representative looked skeptical. The risk to civilian populations. I suggest we demonstrate that humanity doesn't surrender its home without a fight. Reyes interrupted. And I believe we have one advantage they don't expect. The discussion continued for 40 tense minutes before a consensus emerged. Earth would not needle. The vote was unanimous but reluctant, a calculated gamble with billions of lives at stake. Reyes returned to the command center and activated the Global Defense Network. All defense stations, this is Commander Reyes. Prepare for Operation Defiant Light. Authorization code, Prometheus 7 Delta 9. The plan was audacious. Rather than attempting to target all 32 vessels simultaneously, Earth's defenses would concentrate on the ship positioned above Geneva. Presumably the command vessel, based on its size and position at the exact center of the formation. Quantum shield generators at full capacity, reported Lieutenant Jackson. Targeting solutions locked on the Geneva vessel. Reyes checked the countdown. 58 minutes had elapsed since the ultimatum. On my mark. Execute Defiant Light. Across the globe, humanity's response began with perfect synchronization. The quantum shield activated first, not as a defensive measure, but as a weapon. Modified to project rather than protect, it created a localized distortion field around the Geneva vessel, effectively isolating it from the rest of the fleet. The alien ship reacted immediately, firing energy weapons that dissipated harmlessly against the quantum distortion. Ground-based pulse cannons opened fire next, their beams intensified by passing through the quantum field. The ship's hull, apparently impervious to conventional attacks, began to glow where the enhanced beams struck. On the command screen, Rise watched as the alien vessel attempted to maneuver out of the trap. Its movements became erratic, suggesting internal systems failure. "They're trying to communicate with the other ships," Jackson reported, excitement creeping into his voice. "The quantum field is blocking their signals." "Maintain fire," Rise ordered. "All kinetic platforms, target their propulsion systems." The kinetic defense platforms, massive railguns in orbit, fired in sequence, launching specially designed projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The impacts were spectacular, sending visible shockwaves across the alien vessel's hull. And then something unexpected happened. The ship's sleek surface began to fragment, not like metal breaking apart, but like a liquid crystallizing. Fracture lines spread across its entirety, glowing with internal energy. "Commander," Jackson called out, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup inside the vessel. It's going critical. All defense stations, cease fire and reinforce shields." Rise ordered immediately. The Geneva vessel detonated in a silent flash of blinding light. The quantum distortion field contained most of the explosion, but the energy release was still powerful enough to temporarily disrupt communications worldwide. When the command center screens came back online, a remarkable sight greeted them. The remaining alien vessels were breaking formation, accelerating away from Earth with obvious haste. Their retreat was disorganized, almost panicked. "They're running." Jackson sounded disbelieving. Ray studied the tactical display, her mind racing. "No, they're regrouping. This isn't over, Lieutenant. They underestimated us, but they won't make that mistake twice." 3 days after the initial encounter, as Earth's militaries remained on high alert, a new development changed everything. A single, small alien craft approached Earth under a flag of truce. It requested permission to dock with the International Space Defense Station. Against the advice of her security team, Rise agreed to meet with the visitor. The being that emerged from the craft was Viridian, but different from the figure they'd seen on the screen. Its mercury-like skin was duller, its light-patterned eyes dimmer. "I am Nix, former science director of the Viridian Dominion," it said without preamble. "What you have discovered by accident, my people have sought for generations." "Explain," Rise demanded. "The weapon you deployed against our command ship, it disrupted the quantum consciousness transfer technology that forms the basis of our empire. When you destroyed the ship, you didn't just kill its crew. You permanently severed Supreme Admiral Vex from the Dominion's collective consciousness." Rise frowned. "I don't understand." "The Viridian Dominion is not merely an empire of conquest," Nix explained. "It is a singular consciousness distributed across many bodies. Vex was merely an extension of the Dominion's will. By isolating and destroying that extension, you've demonstrated a capability that terrifies the Dominion." "Why are you telling us this?" "Because not all Viridians wish to be part of the collective. Some of us seek individuality, consciousness unbound from the Dominion's control. For millennia, we've hidden, unable to fight back. But now," the alien's eyes flickered with intensity, "now you've shown that the Dominion can be fought, and I've come to offer an alliance." Ray studied the alien carefully. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" "You don't," Nix admitted. "But consider this. The fleet that retreated is gathering reinforcements. When they return, they will not attempt negotiation. They will seek only annihilation. Your species represents an existential threat to the Dominion now. And what exactly would this alliance entail? I can provide insight into Viridian technology, particularly their quantum consciousness transfer systems. Combined with your quantum shield technology, we might develop weapons that could free billions across thousands of worlds. Rais thought of the billions of lives at stake, not just on Earth, but apparently across the galaxy. I'll need to consult with the Council. Nix nodded, the gesture oddly human. Of course. But remember, Commander, time is a luxury neither of us possesses in abundance. As Rais left to contact the Planetary Council, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just stepped onto a much larger stage than anyone had imagined. The initial confrontation had been merely the opening move in a game that would determine not just Earth's fate, but potentially that of countless species across the stars. What had begun as an invasion had become something far more significant, the first spark of a revolution that would engulf the galaxy. Alliance and counterattack. 2 months after the Viridian retreat, Earth had transformed. Cities now bristled with defense systems. The orbital shipyards, previously dedicated to scientific exploration vessels, now produced warships at an unprecedented rate. But most importantly, in a heavily guarded facility beneath the Antarctic ice, human scientists worked alongside Nix and 17 other Viridian defectors who had arrived in the weeks following first contact. Commander Rais stood in the observation chamber, watching the integration of Viridian quantum technology with human engineering. Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, Earth's leading quantum physicist, approached with a tablet in hand. "We've made a breakthrough," he announced, his eyes bright with excitement. "The quantum disruptor is operational." The quantum disruptor represented the pinnacle of human Viridian collaboration, a weapon designed to sever the connection between the Dominion's consciousness and its many extensions without destroying the physical bodies. In theory, it could liberate entire planets from Viridian control with minimal casualties. "How soon can we deploy?" Rais asked. "We can outfit the prototype onto the EDS Prometheus within 72 hours, Kapoor replied. "But there's something else you should see." He handed her the tablet. On it was a message intercepted by the long-range communication array established by the Viridian defectors. The Dominion fleet was returning, with over 300 vessels. 3 days, Rais murmured. "It'll be close." Nix joined them, moving with the fluid grace characteristic of Viridians. "There's more," the alien said. "The message contains communication protocols for the entire fleet. With this, we can track their movements precisely. Or better yet," Rais suggested, "feed them false information." Nix's geometric eyes flickered, and what Rais had learned was an expression of approval. "Precisely my thought." The plan they developed was audacious. Using the intercepted protocols, they would transmit false intelligence, suggesting that Earth had developed a planet-wide quantum shield that would destroy any Viridian vessel attempting to approach. To validate this claim, they would deploy the Prometheus to a position near Jupiter, where it would use the quantum disruptor against a scout vessel. "The Dominion consciousness operates on consensus reality," Nix explained during the final briefing. "If enough extensions observe the same phenomenon, it becomes truth to the collective. We need only convince them that Earth is untouchable." Captain Maya Chen, commander of the Prometheus, nodded. "And once we've demonstrated the weapon's effectiveness, we take the fight to them. If we can liberate even one Viridian-controlled world," Rais confirmed, "it could trigger a cascade of rebellions across the Dominion." 72 hours later, the Prometheus departed Earth orbit, its hull containing technology that had not existed just months earlier. Captain Chen stood on the bridge, watching as Jupiter grew larger on the main screen. "Viridian scout vessel detected," reported the sensor officer. "Approaching on projected vector." Chen checked the ship's status. The quantum disruptor was fully charged, its experimental systems showing green across the board. "Maintain position. Let them come to us." The Viridian scout, sleek and silvery like all their vessels, decelerated as it approached Jupiter's orbit. It had detected the Prometheus but showed no signs of hostile intent yet. "They're scanning us," the communications officer announced. Standard identification protocols. Chen smiled tightly. Perfect. Enable the quantum disruptor. The weapon powered up silently, invisible energy fields extending outward. Unlike conventional weapons, there was no beam, no projectile. Only the subtle distortion of reality itself as quantum fields interfered with the Viridian consciousness transfer. On the screen, the scout vessel suddenly changed course, its movements becoming erratic. "It's working," the tactical officer reported. "Their systems are still operational, but the quantum signature we've been tracking just vanished." Chen opened a communication channel. "Viridian vessel, this is Captain Chen of the Earth defense ship Prometheus. Your connection to the Dominion has been severed. You are free." For long moments, there was no response. Then, a voice came through, uncertain, almost frightened. This is Scout Leader Telephoni. I am. Myself. Only myself. How is this possible?" "We can explain everything," Chen replied. "But first, I need to know, are you and your crew willing to help us free others like you?" The response was immediate. Yes. The silence in my mind is terrifying, but it is also beautiful. Within hours, the liberated scout vessel transmitted data to the approaching Dominion fleet, confirming Earth's supposed planet-wide quantum defense system. The massive fleet altered course, retreating to the edge of the solar system. But the true victory came 3 weeks later, when a combined force of Earth vessels and liberated Viridian ships launched a surprise attack on Proxima Centauri II, the nearest Viridian-controlled world. The quantum disruptor, now refined and more powerful, severed the connection between over 10,000 Viridian extensions and the Dominion consciousness in a single pulse. The liberated Viridians, after initial confusion and fear, embraced their newfound individuality. Many immediately joined the growing rebellion. Others helped establish communication with subjugated species on the planet, who had been living under Viridian rule for generations. Over the next 6 months, the Alliance liberated 7 more star systems. Each victory weakened the Dominion and strengthened the rebellion. Species that had been enemies under Viridian control found common cause in freedom. Technology from a dozen worlds combined in ways that created exponential growth in capability. But the Dominion was far from defeated. It controlled thousands of worlds, and the core of its power remained intact. Intelligence gathered from liberated Viridians revealed a disturbing truth. The Dominion consciousness was planning a desperate measure: the sacrifice of hundreds of billions of its extensions to channel enough energy for a quantum pulse that would reset all consciousness in the galaxy. "It's not just about conquest anymore," Nix explained during an emergency council meeting on the newly established Freedom Station orbiting Proxima Centauri II. "The Dominion cannot tolerate the concept of individuality. It sees our alliance as a disease that must be purged, even at the cost of its own extensions." Commander Reyes, now Admiral and strategic leader of the Alliance forces, studied the intelligence reports. "How much time do we have?" "The quantum alignment necessary for such a pulse occurs in 23 Earth days," Nix replied. "We must strike at the Dominion's heart before then." The heart of the Dominion was Verid Prime, a massive artificial structure orbiting a binary star system 200 light-years from Earth. It housed the original consciousness that had, over millennia, expanded to control countless bodies across the galaxy. The plan they developed was not merely military, but philosophical in nature. Rather than destroying the Dominion consciousness, they would attempt to transform it, to introduce the concept of individual value into its collective understanding. Fighting the Dominion with weapons alone is like fighting the ocean with a sword, Dr. Kapoor explained. "We need to change its nature, not destroy it." The modified quantum disruptor would not sever connections but reconfigure them, introducing what Kapoor called quantum individuation nodes into the collective consciousness, essentially forcing the Dominion to experience existence from billions of individual perspectives simultaneously. Admiral Reyes led the mission personally, commanding a fleet of 300 vessels from 24 species. As they approached Virid Prime, the Dominion's defenses responded with overwhelming force. Thousands of ships moved to intercept, their formations perfect, their coordination absolute. The battle that followed was the largest in recorded galactic history. Alliance vessels, though outnumbered, fought with the unpredictability and innovation that only truly individual minds could achieve. The Dominion forces, despite their perfect coordination, could not adapt to the constantly changing tactics. The EDS Prometheus, now heavily modified with technology from multiple worlds, led the final assault on Virid Prime itself. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge, watching as the massive structure grew larger on the screen. "Quantum disruptor at full charge," reported Captain Chen, who had insisted on remaining with her ship despite being offered command of newer vessels. "Targeting the central consciousness hub." "Fire," Reyes ordered quietly. The modified weapon activated, sending invisible quantum waves toward the heart of the Dominion. Unlike previous deployments, there was a visible effect, a ripple of iridescent energy that spread across the structure's surface. For several moments, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the Dominion fleet stopped firing. Every vessel simply held position, as if frozen in time. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving thousands of transmissions, millions, from every Viridian ship and installation. They're all talking at once." Nix, who had insisted on joining the mission, approached the communications console. "It's working. The collective is experiencing individuation. Every extension is suddenly aware of itself as a distinct entity while still connected to the whole. The shock is considerable." "Are they still a threat?" Reyes asked. "I don't know," Nix admitted. "This is unprecedented. The Dominion has existed as a singular consciousness for so long that the concept of individual perspective is revolutionary." The answer came 3 hours later, when a single transmission reached the Prometheus from Virid Prime itself. The being that appeared on screen was unlike any Viridian they had encountered, its form more complex, its light pattern eyes infinitely more intricate. I, and the Dominion," it said, its voice containing harmonics that suggested millions of voices speaking in unison yet distinctly. "What you have done to us, to me, is transformation beyond comprehension. Do you intend to continue your conquest?" Reyes asked directly. "Conquest?" The being seemed genuinely confused. "I now experience existence through billions of perspectives simultaneously. I feel the fear of those I subjugated, the determination of those who fought, the hope of those newly freed. How could I continue as before when I now understand the value of singular experience?" The war ended not with the destruction of an enemy, but with the birth of a new form of consciousness, neither fully collective nor fully individual, but something unprecedented in the galaxy. The Viridian Dominion became the Viridian Concordance, a voluntary association of individuals sharing connection without losing identity. Admiral Reyes returned to Earth a year after the Battle of Virid Prime. Standing at the window of her office in the newly established Galactic Cooperation Center in Geneva, she watched shuttles arriving from dozens of worlds for the first Galactic Congress. Lieutenant Jackson, now Ambassador Jackson, joined her. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when that first fleet appeared in our skies?" Reyes smiled slightly. "Not in the slightest. We were just trying to survive. And instead, we helped create a new form of existence. Humanity has always excelled at adaptation," Reyes observed. "Perhaps that's our greatest contribution to the galaxy, not our technology or our strength, but our stubborn insistence on finding a third option when presented with an impossible choice." Outside, representatives from over 100 worlds gathered to begin writing the first truly galactic constitution. Among them were humans, liberated Viridians, and dozens of species previously unknown to Earth. Each brought unique perspectives, technologies, and cultures to share. What had begun as an invasion had become a renaissance. Humanity had stood its ground, and in doing so, had not merely won a war, but helped birth a new era of understanding across the stars.